This episode is brought to you by Familiar Coffee, a decaf coffee company that provides specialty decaf coffee directly to your door. Check out familiarcoffee.com or on Instagram at familiarcoffeeco to learn more. Today we have an amazing story to share with you. Imagine a supermom, an entrepreneur, and an athlete all rolled into one. That's Nicole Simon for you. When Nicole first came to me, she was feeling really tired all the time, her body wasn't happy, and was searching for answers to help her feel like the incredible person she truly is. Nicole wanted to be the best she could be, not just for herself, but for her family and her business too. In today's chat, we're going to dive deep into Nicole's journey. We'll talk about the steps she took to turn things around and what really made a difference for her and the key lessons she learned along the way. Now, she won't tell you this, but Nicole's story isn't just inspiring. It's a reminder that with the right habits and rituals tailored just for you, thriving isn't just possible, it's inevitable. So get comfortable and let's get started on this uplifting journey with Nicole. Let's go. Before we started chatting, she said she's a little nervous. So as a pod family, if you could, when we're done with this episode, head over to where she is, support her in a lot of what she's doing, because this isn't just a story of pivoting. This is a story of resiliency and being open to education. And so, Nicole, welcome to the podcast. I am so happy to have you on. Welcome, my friend.
Thank you.
So, Nicole, I think a good place to start, I think when we look at just a person in general, there's a lot of dualities that they hold, a lot of hats that they wear. And because season 8 was more about the pivot, and as we head into season 9, not only are we discussing the roles of the pivot in each of our lives, but what the next steps are. So, Nicole, I would love for you to introduce yourself, but not so from the standpoint of like, hi, I'm Nicole, this is what I do, but more so, my name is Nicole. These are all the hats that I wear, because you probably know where I'm going to go with this. You and I started working together because of an Instagram post that we'll get to. But I think that's a good place to start. Who are you and what are all the hats that you wear?
I wear a lot of hats. I call myself a mompreneur because I'm a mom and entrepreneur, and they go hand in hand, and they don't really have a time. They're all always going.
Yeah.
So I do real estate investing. I own a children's museum, and then have 3 kids that are all active in sports as well.
And on top of all that, you're like just trying to take care of yourself.
Yes. For sure.
I love it. So obviously what I really loved, you and I obviously have a past relationship, but what really sort of perked my interest into merely just checking on a friend was a post. And I kind of think of that as like a pivoting moment, at least from my vantage point of like, okay, we got to make some changes. Like what we have been doing is no longer working. We wear all of these hats and we're starting to notice that it's starting to be pretty detrimental to your health. So I would love to discuss that post and that moment of pivot for you, tapping into what was going on during that time. And if you can kind of paint an image of what that post was for our listeners.
It was a day in the life of me. It was a very busy day. I can't say that the days don't still happen, but I have learned to walk in the morning and eat throughout the day. So there's that.
Helps.
I actually almost sent you a message the other day when I had an insane day that I was eating my protein throughout the day.
Oh my God. Thank you. Please send those.
But it was just a crazy day. I mean, not all days are crazy, but a lot of them tend to be. And it was from morning drop off until crashing at night, just like nonstop going and closings and tagging along with a little, at the time, 3-year-old with me everywhere I went. And so it was just kind of like a rush of a day where there really wasn't a time to take a breath. I probably didn't eat that day at all. So yeah, there was a lot going on.
I mean, it's pretty relative to most people who are like trying to navigate a dream, trying to execute on that dream, and at the same time trying to be like their whole selves at home and in their relationships. So I'm kind of wondering, Nicole, going back to that moment, obviously that was a vulnerable place for you because I mean, from what I saw was kind of a almost a subconscious reach out for help of like, I'm so damn overwhelmed and I don't know what to do. So I guess the big question for you around that time uh, was your current state impacting some of the things that you cared most about?
Yeah, probably. I mean, when you're overwhelmed in one area, it overwhelms a lot of areas. Not enough time.
What specifically? What
Uh,
areas did you see start to take a hit?
well, when you're overly busy, I mean, your relationship with your significant other can take a hit because I mean, they're there, so the hope is they'll still be there when,
Yeah, right.
which is not really a good way of looking at it, I guess. But that and then health for sure, because I mean, I know how to exercise and supposedly how to eat. But you get to a point where I just kind of forgot everything and just was going through the motions and was at a point where I didn't know where to go or what to do next, just kind
Hmm.
of like doing everything that was on the calendar that needed to be accomplished.
Yeah. So, kind of like fast forward from that moment, you and I had a conversation. You were looking for an opportunity not only to maximize your health, but really to dive into the nutrition and see how that could impact your overall. And I think I'm gonna call you out real quick. Is that okay?
I know you are.
So I think what was really great about that, within a week, you had hired another coach at the same time. So you had two coaches. And I think one of the conversations that we had was, hey, you have a lot of really big things on your plate right now. How about we stay specific about some of the things that you're working on? So I would love to go back because we spent 6 months together and we kind of did it in different programs and builds, right? So for the first 3 months, what were some of the massive changes for you that over time, now that you're looking at it being removed, almost 9 months from when we first started, what were some of those like early dominoes from the standpoint of like habits and rituals that you're like, wow, those have really carried with me until now?
Um, I was dealing with an injury, still kind of am. So I think promoting like walking, usually, I mean, I want to run and I want to do all the big things, but when you get too busy and you have no time, then nothing was happening.
Yeah.
And so I think making something happen of movement wise every day was something that is kind of like stuck with me, like I still do.
Hmm.
And then I guess not being afraid of food, because with all of my stomach
That was a big
issues
one. Yeah.
and stuff that I dealt with, I think I was just at a point where I was just like I didn't know what to eat anymore because it was just
Hmm.
so frustrating that everything.
So, I mean, what was the moment for you? Like, obviously, as you and I work together, having a past relationship, um, what was helpful for you from the standpoint of starting to trust food and starting to trust your body again? Because if we're looking at past experience and that's our information, it makes total sense to me as to why food wasn't really trustworthy and you kind of pigeonholed yourself into eating only certain things. So I'm kind of wondering, like, yeah, there's probably some trial and error on your part. Like, what was helpful for you to gain the trust back with food and not only just food, but also with your body and trusting yourself?
I mean, I probably didn't make it easy at all for sure at the beginning. um, I, I mean, I guess just trying different things was helpful and doing it in a way that I felt like there was support, like I could do it in small amounts of like trying to make the change rather than like everything at once
Hmm.
because it just seemed like a lot like eating out or
Yeah.
at home and then being on the go all the time just trying to figure out what to like have with me that would be like a healthy choice to pick
Hmm.
that would help the progress rather than hurt it.
Because I think a piece that I really enjoyed just observing, because again, like, I'm there to guide you through the roadmap, to guide you with tactics, but you have to go out and do the work. And I think what was really cool, Nicole, is not only you being willing to test things out, not knowing if they were absolutely going to work, But I think by default, what was really great to observe is that not only did we completely change how you approached your nutrition regimen, but it also kind of spawned into different areas of movement, right? Because you had some different types of workout regimens and programs that you were currently doing that were helping you. But I think another piece here, and you didn't mention it, but it's one of the key features that we looked at really over the 6 months, but we really dove into it. And the first three was the sleep. So I'm wondering for you, like how important those little pieces were towards the overall goal.
I think I didn't think sleep was important. I think it took I think it took a long time um, for that change to happen. I feel
It
like
did.
it was quite a fight. There's just not enough hours in the day ever.
Yeah.
And now Adam's like, "You're going to bed." It's like 8 o'clock. I'm like, "Yes, I'm going to
Yes.
bed." Don't
It's
you
your
want to watch
bedtime.
TV? I'm like, "No, I'm sorry, I don't." Going to bed. But getting up early, like sometimes, like there was just like weeks where I go to sleep earlier than usual, but really trying to make sure that there's enough of sleep most of the time so that it just I guess I don't understand the sleep part still, except for that I need to do it because it makes a difference. But it was a pretty big difference, I think, in changing that.
I love that. Well, I mean, the first 3 months were really about creating a foundation. And that was one of the things that you and I talked about is we have to create a foundation so that we can create builds towards some of these other things. And I think if we look at our second program, if you will, we made some builds that I really felt like because the foundation was there, we could really maximize your potential with testing some of these tactics and ideas out. So looking at the latter part of the program, if you will, what was probably the most influential thing that we started to work on that you were able to create some systems with?
Um, Probably syncing my cycle.
Hmm.
I think made the biggest difference. Besides food being an issue, that was also an issue I was dealing with when I first started with you. Was just trying to get my hormones on track and not all out of whack. And I think the different foods during different phases and different like movements of your body during different phases um, really made a difference. And still working on it now and making sure that like there's enough vitamins and supplements and everything. Um,
Hmm.
Last month I had a month where I had almost no pain, and it was a miracle.
Oh, it
It
took
was
us 8 months, but we got there. Yeah, I mean, it was something that, and we had talked about this before, something that I had tested out and something that's really popular, obviously among those who call themselves females in the space of understanding the cycle because I mean, I said this to you before too. Like being a female is wild. Like I can't even imagine all the stuff that you guys have to go through. But but most in my experience sort of just take it as like, hey, like this is my life and I just have to deal with it. But I think what was really cool is we were able to create systems to where maybe there wasn't immediate relief, but over time we have months just like you had said where you're like, hey, I was pretty much pain free, which I know for you, pain was a really big, I guess, pain point, pun intended, that kept you from doing some of the things that you love. So I think what was really cool about observing that once again was you being really coachable, which I think for people out there who are really looking to pivot and make some changes and make some sustainable changes, you do have to be open to being coached because to think that you know everything or to think that you can take all the information that's out there and apply it without any sort of trial and error, I think is just not a realistic way to look at it. And I think, Nicole, for you, what was really cool was seeing you do that. Now, we're into this like 8 or 9 month phase. I'm wondering if you can shed some light on just the course of this journey for you, how that has impacted. We started with the duality of Nicole, right? All the hats that you wear. So fast forward to now, how has taking care of yourself in some of the ways that we just discussed impact all the hats that you wear?
I think it makes it easier wearing all of the hats, not having to deal with all of the like stomach issues and hormone issues, and still constantly working at them, but not being so much pain that you're dealing with on a daily basis. Feeling like you can like be a normal person.
What's that?
Right? And I think that a lot of it has helped me just deal with stress better. I think at the beginning I just couldn't deal with it, and I think throughout the process, having all of the other things under control didn't make it feel like it was so out of control. Like
Hmm.
you can kind of work through the stressors that come your way, especially with all
Yeah.
that.
Especially with all the hats. Yeah. So, I mean, Nicole, for you, like as you're kind of looking into the future, what are you taking from this experience? What's some of the biggest takeaways for you?
Um, just remembering to take care of myself, even when it gets too busy.
Hmm. That you have space to take care of yourself, even though like your kids and your husband and everyone is depending on you, but understanding that it starts with you.
Yeah, yeah. I have been going to bed before my daughter wakes.
I love it. I
Night.
love it. I
Who do
absolutely
you
love it.
want? Me. See you later.
Well, Nicole, it's been an absolute pleasure. I have three more questions for you, two of which are the ones that we ask a lot of our guests. But before we get to those questions, I know that you and I have had conversations about like people in your space and people in your environment that are in very similar spaces. If someone's kind of on the cusp with like, I know that I need to make a pivot, maybe I'm too overwhelmed to do it, or even to understand what the next steps are. And if I'm not even thinking about what it would feel like to have a mentor or a coach to guide me, what would you say to that person who's on the cusp of knowing that the pivot is needed and not knowing what to do next?
I think if you're overwhelmed and don't know what to do next is just the reason you should do it. I think it,
That's enough.
I do. I think it made such a change and helped so much that somebody who is like overwhelmed, it's just to have somebody help you work out the overwhelm so that it's not so overwhelming.
Yeah. So that you're not alone. I feel like that's like the biggest piece of like, especially people who are in that like entrepreneur space. Like there's almost like a glutton for punishment sometimes. Like, no, I got to figure this out. And if it means that it kills my health in the process, like it oftentimes seems that that's kind of the mantra. And it doesn't have to be that way. And I think your story and your testament is that it absolutely doesn't have to be that way.
Yeah, for sure.
So obviously this is the Can't Believe I Made It podcast. So these are the two questions that we like to ask all of our guests. So I'm going to ask you the same ones. And then I'm going to let you go because I know you got to pick up your kiddos. Um, okay, so obviously this is the Can't Believe I Made It podcast. So big question for you, Nicole, is have you made it? And if not, what does making it look like for you in your current season of life?
I do not think I have made it. There's still, I guess, always work to be done. Um, I think I'm doing well, but there's just always always more, I guess. Um, and I guess to me, feeling like I made it would feel like I could delegate more and wouldn't have to wear so many of the hats.
Ah, scaling.
Someone could do it for me.
I love that. I love that. Well, Nicole, last question for you. It's been such a pleasure sharing this space with you. I'm so glad that we, uh, many reschedules of doing this, but we finally got on the calendar. We're finally going to get a recording out. But last question for you. All the hats that you're wearing, how can the Can't Believe I Made It family support you in some of your endeavors? I know that you're doing a lot right now. I know that you're trying to get some things off the ground, possibly offloading some things in the future. Who knows? But where can people find you and how can we support you?
You can find me on Instagram at Property Mom STL. It seems to be the main space that I that I can keep going. There's
Yeah,
too many others to keep it going, but I post real estate stuff there and business stuff and sometimes momming stuff there as well.
I love it. Well, we make sure we'll put those links in the show notes for those that want to head over and just lend some support. Shout out to all the mompreneurs out there who are wearing all the hats that you wear and also trying to take care of yourself, which I can understand as an endeavor, as a dadpreneur, if you will. But Nicole, it's been an absolute pleasure sharing the space with you. It's been an absolute pleasure observing your progress and you being open to my really bad jokes and at the same time challenging you in some ways you probably didn't enjoy all the time.
Same.
Awesome. All right. We'll make sure we put those in the show notes. Nicole, thank you once again. Don't go anywhere after we press done with recording because I got some directions for you. But for those, we'll keep those in the show notes. If you have not pressed that subscribe button, please make sure that you do so that you can get all the notifications when we release all of these episodes monthly. We are actually recording this during our time off. I need to take a break. So if you are feeling any sort of way about taking a break, here is your push to be okay with that. But Nicole, I'll chat with you in a bit. For those, love y'all. Catch you on the next one.